as an energy alternative. But of course, I think we are making some strides. I believe that some of these, knowledge sharing sections will also enlighten people the more on what we need to do moving forward as a country. But of course, so thank you very much once again. I'll be presenting with my colleague, Engineer Dr. Eden Bensa. In fact, he is the immediate past head of the center that I head now. But of course, still playing very important role at the unit as the head of bioenergy. And he's also currently the head of the chemical engineering department of Kumasi Technical University. And so, Engineer Bensa, if you are here, you may want people to hear your voice. Myself, I'm Engineer Dr. Julius Kujua Hieko. I'm the head of the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency at Kumasi Technical University.
Good morning to you
for the
all.
past 15 years or so, I've been involved in several bioenergy related projects and research in Ghana, and of course in some parts of the world as well. And so I'll be happy to share some experiences with you in respect of biogas technology development. The topic for today, I would want to point it as biogas for domestic and commercial use, key factors to consider. I understand that we have just about 45 minutes to make a presentation and then some minutes for questions. So we'll try to be very brief. We'll try to also blend, the very technical details with layman's, understanding our language, so that everybody can appreciate exactly what we're talking about. But of course, we are available for any further discussions. If you have any peculiar issues that you want to discuss and you feel the time here is not enough, please feel free to contact us. Dr. Mubarak can always give you our contact for further discussions. All right. Okay, so we'll go straight to the point. All right, so today I want us to look at what biogas is and what we mean by biogas technology. We'll be looking at the uses of the technology and then the type of the biodigesters that we have. Most importantly, we want to understand why biogas systems fail. One of the issues, of course, that's necessitated this webinar is the fact that there are a number of failed systems across the country. In fact, Engineer Mubarak mentioned that when you walk across the northern region, you see some, projects that have failed. And so we need to understand exactly what is behind this. And then, of course, we also want to see whether it is really worth it to put money into these systems, either as individuals or domestic users or as commercial users. And so these are some of the things that we'll want to touch on briefly today. So when we say biogas, what is it? Basically, as the name suggests, it's a type of gas that is produced from biomass. And so bio represent biomass, and then the gas, of course, will mean a gas that is produced from biomass. But basically, it is a methane-rich type of gas produced from the breakdown, or what we call the digestion of organic matter. And so, please pardon me for those of us who may not know methane. Methane is a hydrocarbon that, of course, those of you with chemistry background would know that it contains 1 carbon and then 4 hydrogen in single bonds. So it's a very rich gas that is used for combustion and, of course, a lot of other chemicals. Naturally, the biogas is colorless, and because of the methane content, one of the quickest way to do I say, ascertain the presence of biogas is to smell, a rotten like, egg smell. Okay, so normally where you have biogas, you have a smell that is similar to that of a rotten egg. Because it's colorless, you cannot see it. Naturally, God has also made it possible for us to detect the presence of the gas through the smell. If you want to compare it to LPG, a kilogram of biogas would probably, if you have a very rich biogas that contains probably about 70% methane, 70-75% methane, the energy content is about 70% of that of LPG. And so it's a good gas that can do a lot of energy, or do I say applications for us. How is this produced? Before the webinar, I saw that Engineer Mubarak was playing some video, which is quite interesting, showing us exactly how biogas is produced. But I would just want to break it down a little bit. The process is actually a chemical process, or in quotes, a biochemical process. And so it involves several complex chemical reactions. I won't go into all of this. Laymanly, we'll say that it's produced when some group of microorganisms or bacteria break down organic matter. And so when organic matter digests in the absence of oxygen, okay, so we want the digestion process to happen where the environment is inert or where there is no oxygen. Then the product of that process will be a gas and some other materials. So the gases that are produced, like I said, would be methane gas. You have some carbon dioxide, sometimes even some carbon monoxide, and other traces of gases, depending on the composition of the material or the biomass material that you have. For us, for the purposes of using it for energy, we are interested in maximizing or optimizing the production of the methane gas, which is the key ingredient in there that is responsible for its energy application. Of course, the anaerobic, or do I say the process, which is usually referred to as anaerobic digestion, anaerobic because it's happening in an inert environment or an oxygen-free environment, would the microorganisms involved there would require that environment to survive. So if the microorganisms are exposed to oxygen, their survival will be in question. So it's important that you create an environment that is what we call inert, or that is oxygen free, for the microorganisms to be able to responsible for the breaking down of the biomass to be able to do their work very well. And so normally this environment is created in an environment or in a system that we refer to as a biodigester. And so the biodigester is just a reactor or a kind of container designed in such a way that air will not be allowed to enter, more or less, so that we can have the process of the digestion happening. So typically, this is a typical digester that is not usually buried underground. Of course, the reasons for all of this will be known later. So this is a very typical digester. So basically what we have here is just this portion of it. Sorry, I don't know what I can see. Where's my pen? Yeah. Okay, so this portion of it will contain our biomass, and it's created or designed in such a way that there will not be any oxygen entry. Okay, so as you can see, we have the digester itself with other, ancillary parts or auxiliary parts. So we'll go into the details of this later on. Now, the process involves a number of chemical reactions, as already indicated. And just to summarize what happens in there, if we take any typical biomass, we know that any typical biomass will contain some carbohydrates, some fat, and some proteins. And so there are about 4 different stages or 4 different kind of reactions with unique or specific microorganisms responsible for each of these, activities. So we have the hydrolysis part, where we have the breakdown of, the complex or the large molecules, or the larger molecules to slightly, smaller molecules, which are further broken down into, smaller molecules, smaller, until we get to the methane, carbon dioxide, and then the other traces where we have more or less almost complete reaction happening. So this is exactly what happens. But we are not going to go into the chemistry of this. Perhaps we can have another section, discussing all of these quite complex processes happening here. But we need to understand that it's a chemical reaction. And so for those of us in engineering field, you understand that any reaction that is in final process that is a reaction will depend on a number of factors. And so if we do not understand the factors that will promote the success of that reaction, then we are likely to fail, in whatever, plans or ideas that we may have in producing something. All right. So what are the uses of the technology? Typically, the anaerobic digestion process is used for basically 2 things. One, you can use it to produce gas. If the production of biogas is the object or the main goal, then it can be used to produce biogas. You can also use that same process as a waste treatment process. Okay, so you can use the biogas technology or the anaerobic digestion technology to produce biogas or to treat waste. In fact, they happen together. They are not mutually exclusive. So what happens is that whether you want to treat waste, the biogas will be produced. Whether you want to produce biogas, some waste treatment will happen. But depending on your focus, you may design the process in such a way that you optimize one, or if like I said, if the object is to produce a lot of gas for cooking or for energy application, then you want to, design your process in such a way that the production of gas is optimized. Okay, if it's for waste treatment also, then you want to have a way that the pathogens within the biomass or within the substance that you want to treat are given enough, or do I say the appropriate conditions to be able to, be, addicted or be killed or be, made inactive in whichever way you want. So if the emphasis is on production of gas, that is where normally the term biogas technology is used. So you hear biogas, I think that's a commonplace, one of the terminologies we use openly, biogas technology. And normally, this resonates very well with systems that are used with the intent to produce some gas for further applications. If it's for sanitation or waste treatment options, you may hear terms like anaerobic waste treatment technology, or anaerobic treatment technology, and all of that. So they are all the same. Like I said, whichever technology you want to use, it is still biodigesters that are doing the work, depending on what you want to produce. And during this process, like I said, you produce a gas, and then you produce what we call the bioslurry. Okay, so the sustainability of an anaerobic digestion process, it's increased when you are able to make use of these 2 products. One will be the main product, one will be a bioproduct. The byproduct. So depending on what you want, usually if you're able to make use of all of this, then in fact you are closing the cycle. You are actually ensuring that nothing goes to waste. Okay, so typically, assuming we produce some biogas, these are anaerobic digester, and the gas is produced directly. You can use the gas, in a biogas generator to produce electricity without any further, treatment. So maybe just removing some unwanted materials through filtration or absorption. You can use it directly to produce electricity. You can use it to cook also. You can just burn it in a biogas stove, and voila, you are good to go. You can prepare some meal with it if you have enough gas. So you see the heat application also here. Of course, advanced technologies or advanced countries or in advanced utilization, we can actually further refine our various applications. You can use it even in, as fuel for transportation, use it for the generation of electricity and other chemicals. Okay, so they are very advanced usage as well. That will require some further processing. And then, of course, the slurry or the digestates that I talked about can also be used as a very good soil enhancing, material, or as a fertilizer. And many people will call it the biofertilizer. Very rich in minerals that can be used for the purposes of enhancing or enriching the yield of farmers. So we have a very complete system if we are able to use all of this. And normally this technology in countries where they have had a lot of sources in the eastern part of Asia, you notice that they are able to use all the byproducts of the process. So they are using it for heating and cooking. At the same time, they are using it on their farm. Okay, so you can see that the farm will also produce, and a material that will be needed, for the process itself. So you have a very complete cycle in here. But what is the, situation in Ghana? In a survey that was done by Bensa, myself, and some other colleagues, we in 2018, we found that in Ghana, a lot more people install the biogas for the purposes of sanitation. And energy, yes, about 60% of the people would want to use the energy. And we will notice that the energy usage is usually also pronounced or predominant in the institutional or commercial facility users. And so for many households, the idea or the intent of putting up a biogas facility or anaerobic digestion system is to use it to treat waste. Of course, the use of fertilizer is on a very, very low side. A lot of people just dispose of the bioslurry into the environment. And so based on this, we want to know what exactly will have to be considered when you are putting up a biogas digester. Okay, so there are a number of factors, we'll just mention a few here, that necessarily have to be considered when you are installing a biogas. And so this will be very useful for people who are installers. I know there are a lot of installers, there are people who have interest in building biogas facilities across the country, but the chemistry behind this needs to be known. If you don't know the chemistry, if you don't know the factors that actually affect the plan that we want to put up, we might end up failing and our businesses may go down, because when the end user doesn't find the benefits, of course, the person is not going to sell your technology to another person, and you might be losing out on market share. Okay, so we need to understand. So one of the key factors to consider when putting up the technology is the temperature of the process. Okay, so the digestion process can actually be categorized into about 3 stages. We have what we call the cycrophilic process, where the temperatures are below 20 degrees Celsius. And so this is typically for the countries where temperatures can actually go very low. And then we have the mesophilic, which is between 30 and 42 degrees Celsius. And then we have the thermophilic. In fact, the most efficient process will be the thermophilic, but this usually will require that you have a process of introducing some heaters within your plant. Of course, this will create a lot of challenges for the type of systems that we install in Ghana. So normally you notice that in Ghana, we normally go for the mesophilic, processes, okay, where the temperature range between 25 and 40 is quite suitable for us. And the reason why most of our digesters are buried underground is to ensure that it's like we are using the earth as a natural insulator, okay, to ensure that the temperature within the system is kept, in a favorable range for proper digestion. Now, you will notice that depending on the type or the temperature range, there's something we call the minimum retention time also varies. So the higher the temperature, the lower the retention time. And one of the things we have found is that sometimes we have installers who want to, of course, the retention time, as I will explain later on, actually affects the size of your reactor. The size of your reactor or the biodigester will determine the cost of the system. So I wouldn't say whether people want to beat the system, but it can beat nature. You see, if you try to cheat the system, if you design a system where the retention time should be, let's say, 40 days, which will mean that you instead of maybe a 5 cubic meter, you might need about 8 or 10 cubic meter, which may be much more expensive for a household. And you decide to reduce the size to, let's say, 5 cubic meter and with a retention time of 20 days. And you don't provide the temperature that is required for that. What you mean is that your system may not be operating the way you want it. So you do your system, after some time, you notice that you are not getting the result that you expect. So we need to be very careful how we do this as installers. Okay. I just want to show something also about the temperature. So you see that even if you want to produce gas, if the production of gas is the main goal, you see that let's take for instance human waste. If you are operating at an optimum temperature of about 35 degrees Celsius, you are able to produce about 0.43 cubic meter per kilogram of the total solids within the human waste. But if the temperature is lower, you see that of course the output or the amount of gas also reduces. So this is something that we need to take into consideration when we are putting up a biodigester. There's also what we call the hydraulic retention time, which I talked about, basically telling us how long our material should be in the digester before it is removed. Okay, and so this will affect the size of your reactor because it's basically a batch system. So if you have to hold a lot of material for a longer number of days, then you mean that you need a larger system and also affects the gas production rate. Okay, so just as so you see, this is a chart or rather a table showing the number of retention days and then how much of the gas you can get out of a particular biomass. So if we take, let's say, human waste, if you design a system and the retention time, hydraulic retention time is about 10 days, you are able to just get about 40% of the quantity of gas that you should get from the waste. Okay, but if you go to about 40 days, you are getting about 98%. Of course, usually we recommend about 40 days if it's for gas production. If it's for sanitation, of course, you might need a lot more days. So you make sure that all the pathogens within, particularly for human waste, contains a lot of pathogens. So probably between 60 days to make sure that everything is dead before you give it out to the environment. All right. So then, of course, also the type of feedstock. So yes, technically, all type of, or do I say, any organic material is digestible technically. So you might be tempted to push in any material at all, but there are some guidelines. In fact, the very simple guideline is that you deal with what we call the soft organic materials. They are easily digestible. Okay, so the cellulose and then the hemicellulose, or do I say the softer part of but if you are fortunate to even get food waste and all of that, that is better. Okay, so manure from animals are somehow already digested, so that is better. But peels, woody part, branches, and all of that. In fact, I remember on one of our trips, we were inspecting some facilities and we had some complaints of a system not working. We opened it up and it was full of plantain peels, cassava peels, and all of that. Okay, I mean, they will digest, but it will take a longer time to digest. And so if this is a system designed for 20, 40 days, and you don't have the luxury to extend the number of days, it means that you are choking your digester. And eventually, if you're not careful, it will die out and it will not be producing any gas or will not be working as you expect it to work. Then there's something we also call the carbon nitrogen ratio, which is a little technical, but basically what it means is that your feedstock or your feedstock should have a certain range of acceptable range of carbon and nitrogen, okay, within it. And this is particularly important for the microorganism, because the microorganism that will do the work will also have to eat. So they are feeding on the biomass. And so when they feed on the biomass, they need certain energy. The energy will have to be gotten from the carbon, what do you call it, the nitrogen, the carbon component of your biomass. And then, of course, they are nourished or they grow very well also using the nitrogen. So you need a very good blend. Okay, typically we are told that if you have a range between 20 and 30 for any biomass material, that is good. There is a way you can actually optimize this ratio within the biodigester by blending different types of biomass. So if you are even using cow dung or human waste, it is important at some point in time to add some grasses, maybe switchgrass and all of that, you know, at some point traced very well and then introduce into the system just to optimize all of this. So we have some ranges of the CN ratio here. You can see that the straw, our rice straw, was the leafy materials usually have very high, you know, rates of the CN ratio. Then, of course, the pH. So here the pH, let me bring it down. We mean that the acidity or the alkalinity of our the system. So within the environment, the reactor, the safe operating pH level should be between 6.2 and 8.5. If you go below 6.2, you are killing the microorganisms. That is, if your system is too acidic, the microorganisms will die. If it's too basic, they will also die. So we need to find a balance, and it's very important that we are able to keep this balance, okay? And what this tells us is that, and one of the reasons why we'll see later on that many of our household systems don't work the way we expect them to work, is because we use too harsh detergents. So we are using Parazone, we are using whatever to clean our WCs, because we want our homes to be, you know, as hygienic as possible. But in doing that, we are flushing this into the digester, and then it's increasing the pH within the system, which will be killing our microorganisms, and eventually the system may not work. So you have a very good, somebody or an installer will do a very good work, but just because of our operations, we may be, you know, killing or the microorganisms and will not achieve the result that we have to. Okay, so, and of course, how often you even load the microorganism, sorry, your materials, okay? So you need to have a certain loading amount per day so that you don't overfeed, just like eating. You don't, if you eat too much, you suffocate, isn't it? So the same way, if you feed the biodigester with so much at a time, you might not be optimizing its operation. All right, so moving from there, I think we can discuss this later. Moving from there, we just want to show some pictures of the various types of biodigesters that we have. In fact, now technology is advancing. A lot of the institutions are putting up, you know, high-level digesters. Some of these ones include what we call the continuous stir tank reactors that may not even have to be buried. There's a project we are working on now in the Kumasi area. We are putting up what we call the upflow reactor, or the UAPB. So these are, you know, Guinness Ghana has one, and a number of companies also have some of these high-level digesters. But the most common ones are what, of course, our artisans have been able to master over the years. So we have what we call the fixed dome, for instance. This is a very typical. You see a biogas, you don't see most of it. In fact, probably what you see will just be the tip of this, because all of this will be buried underground. And I said that doing this ensures that the temperature within the system is controlled naturally and kept within acceptable levels, and also protects the F protects the biodigester for accidental break and all of that. So it actually reinforces it somehow. Okay, so this is a typical fixed dome reactor. Then we have the floating drum reactor, also very typical. I know a lot of installers, are used to installing and designing this. We have the balloon type, and of course some. How do I even call this? So these I call it some innovative, systems that are also around. Of course, what is the digester? It's just an environment that is inert. Okay, that does not contain oxygen and able to do what you need. So this is somebody using a gallon, a container, to produce biogas for his, his home. So of course there are several, different types, several different innovations, but generally in Ghana, per some work that we have done, we noticed that the fixed dome type, dominates the systems in Ghana. Of course, in fact, many of our installers would be comfortable, installing the fixed dome digester for you, many of them. So you can see almost 80% of all installations that we have in Ghana presently are of this type. So why do some of these systems fail? In fact, in a survey that we also did some time ago, we noticed that, in fact, this is actually improved. I remember in 2009, if Engineer Bensai is here, he can speak to this. He did some survey and found that almost 50% of all systems in Ghana were not operational. Fortunately, this was done probably about some 9-10 years later. And in fact, we have, I would say, based on the data, we have improved as a country. We have about 64% of our systems being functional, and of course, a number of them not working. And of course, during the survey, we found out about 8% was still under construction. And so you can see that still we have issues with, high failing rates of our systems. But what are the causes, or what are the reasons behind these failing rates? Okay. So we try to ask a few questions. We are not going to go very deep much, but we have summarized them into about 2 major categories. One of the things that we found out was that one was due to design considerations, so improper design considerations. And this is typically for the installers, and this is what the installers here needs to pay attention to. Sometimes our inability to understand the process, or our quest or our attempt to reduce costs by reducing retention time and not providing the appropriate temperature could result in failure of our systems. Okay, so if somebody wants the system to produce gas, they will want it to produce gas and be able to use the gas. Okay, so we need to really understand this. And of course, undersizing was found as one of the major issues. We also, of course, which as a result of the reduction in the what we call the hydraulic retention time. Then, of course, generally, we also notice that some of the constructions or installations are low quality. And so there are some systems that are cracked, of course, and of course, that will result in leakages and all of that. And so we need to be very careful as installers. Then the other side, also the end user side, we also notice that the operation by the owners, improper operation, is also one of the major contributing factors to the failure of some of these systems. And of course, lack of maintenance. It's a normal or a typical Ghanaian culture. We spend so much money to invest into things, but we don't pay attention to the maintenance of these systems. So we notice that the lack of, in fact, some systems over 10-20 years have not been repaired or maintained. At least once in a while, you can call the installer or some other installer to come take a quick look and see whether the system is being choked, whether something is happening, so they can fix it before it gets out of hand. Of course, overloading, as I explained earlier, some household will just dump everything into the digester because it's supposed to digest, or do I say break down in any organic material. Okay, so, and then of course, the use of toxic materials. Okay, some heavy metals, some detergents that we use. In fact, for household systems and for institutional systems like hotels and all of that, where they don't have control of what is disposed into the digester, you see a lot of foreign materials, okay, some of which we don't want to mention here, that are not even digestible in the first place, put in by the users of these facilities. Okay, so it's really, really important that perhaps moving forward, we have a way of separating these unwanted materials before they even get into the digester. I know some researchers and some installers are working around the clock to find ways of separating unwanted materials like anyway, so I believe you understand what I mean. We don't want to mention some of these things here, but any material that we use for personal care that should not go into the WC, I think we should just make sure that it doesn't go in there. Okay, particularly for institutions that have invested so much into putting up, biogas technology or systems for the purposes of either treating waste or producing gas. All right. So, yeah, I think I still have some few minutes to wrap up. So we can look at the what I call the financial viability. The technical issue actually be the economic viability, but of course, economically, there are a lot of advantages of the biogas, some of which we are not able to quantify in terms of monetary terms. So we are dealing purely with monetary issues here. And so is it worth putting in your money? If you put in your money, what are the consequences? Okay. Of course, a lot of work has been done in this area. We have also attempted some work here. In the work we did work for SNV Ghana, and I think yeah, we found out that for a typical urban household with household size of 4. Okay, so now we are told that the average household size in Ghana is about 3.5. So we are just reducing the numbers, which is not very good for our biogas systems. If you are going to rely solely on human waste, or do I say food waste, for the use of our biogas system. But of course, for a typical household of 4 people, if you put in money, okay, the payback time will be between 1 year and 10 years. Okay, and as you can see from this table, there are 2 different options. The options are that one is designed such that the user is able to use the gas. So if the intention is to use the gas and the user makes a deliberate and conscious effort to use the gas produced, then there will be other savings in terms of replacement of the fuel you're already using. So if it is LPG or even if it is charcoal, so you see that for that, if you have a very good rate or a very good installation cost, you might even break even within a year. Okay, but of course, if you use the average case here, I will explain what this means later on. Then, of course, between the 7th year, you should probably be recouping all your money. Okay, if you should invest in this. And for this typical system, we are looking at a 5 cubic meter system, which would be very good for a household of about 4 people. All right. Now, the other option is that the household is just interested in using this as purely a waste treatment facility. Okay, and so here, if you have it purely as a waste treatment facility, what are the advantages or what do you benefit? Okay, the only benefit you get from here financially will be the cost vis-a-vis dislodging of a typical septic tank. We all know that for our homes, for a septic tank, you may have to dislodge depending on how it is designed. Okay, and so if the EPA were doing its work very well, I'm sure many of us will be caught with within the net of dumping untreated materials into the environment. And so if we don't want to dump untreated materials or into the environment and we design a biogas system for our homes, within 10 years, you should be able to make back your money. And considering a lifespan of 20 to 30 years for a biodigester, I think that is quite a good investment to make, considering the returns that you'll be making on this. Okay, so you don't have any issue of having to call people to come and dislodge your waste and blah blah blah. That will be it. Right. So now, typically, in terms of US dollars, a cubic meter of a biogas digester in Ghana will cost about between 100 and 445 US dollars. So the 100 US dollars is the low bandwidth here, and this is what we call the best case scenario. So if you, of course, there are some installers who are cheap, not very expensive. Some are also very costly, and so depending on your taste, you may want to get this. We have a list of many of them, so if you want to contact us, we can recommend some of them to you. But typically, this is the cost, the average cost of a cubic meter of a biodigester. What we have also noticed is that for large, or was a larger system, larger than 10 cubic meter, the costs usually, is reduced. So you may actually get a deal, lower than what we have here. What we should also note is that the actual costs and the reason why there's some variation will also be dependent on a number of factors. So the guys will have to do an assessment of the land and all of that to see the water table, a whole lot of things we have to take into consideration. So we are saying that the actual cost will normally be dependent on factors such as the site characteristics, the materials of construction, what you want to use for the construction, the cost of labor within your particular vicinity. So Accra, maybe cost of labor per day will be much more higher than maybe somewhere in Kumasi or maybe Sunyani or maybe perhaps, I don't know, maybe in the north. So you need to be careful. Then of course, the type of post-treatment system that you need or you want. So this one will depend on your taste. There are basic materials that can be used, but some will want very complex systems. Depending if you are going to use this for gas, maybe you might need a gas meter to be reading. So all of this will add extra cost to your facility, right? So typically this is what we have. But if you ask me, I'll tell you that it's worth the investment, provided you are guaranteed quality installation. Okay. Now we also did some work for. This is for commercial entities. So I mean, these are I can mention the name. These are large farms in Ghana, and for this particular one, it's a very large oil processing mill in Ghana, and we were invited to do some work for them. You will notice that the simple payback, if they should invest in a biogas for the treatment of their effluents and for the purpose of generating electricity and also treating their waste, in fact, in less than 2 years, they will be making back, their investment. And in fact, for those of you who have some background in economics, you will notice that all the indicators here are quite positive. Okay, the only drawback here is that they need so much money, about $1.2, $1.3 million to be able to invest into the facility. Okay, and this is normally where the issue is. The question is, how do I get this much money to invest, okay, into such a facility? And I think it's a topic for another day, not today. All right, so you can see that even for commercial facilities, depending on their unique conditions, this is also it's a piggery. This one here is a piggery. It's a very huge pig farm in Kumasi. They also have about 2.3, and there's another one here, which I think is a poultry farm also, about 7.2 years. So depending on your specific or the unique situation you find yourself, the figures here show that they are quite positive for us to invest into. All right, now, what are the technical potential of biogas digesters in Ghana? So this is just a very brief summary. And I think this is going to the policymakers or the government functionaries here. In fact, what we need to understand is that as a country, we have not been able to fully harness the potentials of biogas. We have so much potential, but we have not been able to do that. In fact, I remember we made some recommendation of even developing or designing what we call a national biogas program. Some countries have done this. We need to even have some regulation within the system, or have a regulator within the system, control the quality of installation and all of that. I know EPA, Energy Commission, are up to something. Hopefully, very soon something will come up. But if you take a typical household system, that is depending. This is for urban areas solely on human waste and kitchen waste. Looking at the what we call the for waste treatment, or as a replacement or as a substitute for septic tank, we have about 150,000 systems that we think can be installed across the country. And this is huge in terms of numbers, considering the number of installers that we have. In fact, we might need to do a lot more training to be able to tap into this. And that would probably yield about $56 million US for these people who may be involved. And for the rural or peri-urban settlement where we have some farm, some household that have some farmland, or do I say have some cat livestock. Okay, so we are talking of tank fed systems. About 65,000 systems can also be installed, and normally these are for, and I see the greatest potential in terms of gas usage, but these are the people mostly in the rural areas. We also know that the energy source are usually from the forest, or firewood or charcoal, okay, biomass. And so having this biogas as a replacement for biogas will have several other economic and social benefits for these people. So basically, this is what we have. As a conclusion, I want to bring this to an end for further discussions. We believe that biogas systems are good alternatives to septic tank for night soil treatment. Fortunately, there are some innovative systems that are coming up that we just need to be sure of their quality, and I'm sure that the costs may be lower. Of course, they have reasonable payback time of up to about 10 years. So if, in fact, within 10 years, you're able to pay back whatever investments you put on this, I'm sure that will be good value for money. The challenge, however, is that the upfront cost is quite huge. Typically, you'll be in a region 2 times plus higher than that of a septic tank. And so if it will cost me, let's say, 10,000 Ghana cedis, to put up a septic tank, probably I should be looking at about 30,000, to do a biogas system, a proper biogas system. And that's maybe, a little prohibitive for a lot of people looking at how much you need to put in there. Ghana as a country has potentials to promote biogas. And I know that the Biogas Association of Ghana is doing a lot of work to promote the sector, also to ensure that there's quality within the system, which is what is also required. Okay, so we need to regulate the system. That's how we have done for solar and other renewable energy resources. I think that we also need to regulate the system. Let's be sure that those who are going about, putting up these systems for people understand exactly what they are doing and are able to be tracked if they fail to perform or put up a good system and be reprimanded accordingly. Okay, so this is where I want to bring the session to a close. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, engineer, for that wonderful presentation. In fact, you've been able to retain our audience, and the number of participants has even been increasing. That's a very good presentation. As I said, okay, we have some hands up already. So those who have raised their hands, I will mute your mic to ask your question, and then engineer will respond. So I'm unmuting Baba Kamil. Yeah, hello.
Hello. Yes, hello.
Oh, okay, so this is Mr. Safu Mensa. Please, you can
Yes,
ask
please.
the question.
All right, Doc, I greet you. Thank you for the presentation. I have 3 questions. Am I allowed to ask?
Oh, yes, please, you can ask.
All right. Yeah, so Doc, the first one is that for a household of about 5, what capacity and retention time will be optimum?
Baba, I can hardly hear you. You can also put this in the chat box.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. So can you repeat your question, Baba?
No, this is Safo. This is Safo, not Baba.
Okay, I didn't hear the question from Baba. I think Baba asked the question. So
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Engineer Dembensa. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Let me answer this question. Yeah, for a small household size of 5, typically a digester of about 5 to let's say 8 cubic meter capacity, yeah, will do the job. The issue is that in most situations, it comes back to money. Okay, so 5 cubic meter, 6 cubic meter is good. The bigger the capacity of the digester, the better the digestion situation in the digester, and that means that you get a richer gas output, and then also the digestion is better and more efficient. In such a case, you can use the effluent for irrigation. You can use it in your backyard garden, and you can also allow it to go into the public drain, so that it doesn't pose any threat to the environment. So I would say that our 5 cubic meter digester is okay. And if you have money, it can be up to 8 cubic meter. Of course, the bigger the digester, the more money you pay. Okay, I hope.
And and the other aspect was, what is the optimal retention time?
Yeah, the optimal retention time for a 5 cubic meter capacity digester for a household size of 5 will be about 40 days to about 60 days.
All right.
The issue is that usually we estimate how much, if it is for a household connected to the WC, the water closet, we estimate how much waste, that's wastewater, will be generated in a day. Then we estimate we use the recommended retention time. Then we decide on how much, decide on the volume of digester, and then we can then determine the cost of investment.
Thank you very much.
So 40 days is okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. One question is done. The second one is about, I mean, from the presentation, what I understand is that using a separate waste disposal system, which means that you have the black water, the waste from WC separately disposed of from waste from the other places, that is bath, kitchen, that is better than the combined system. Is that correct?
Yeah, ideally, what is the best is to combine the waste from the WC, the black water, and of course, the organic waste from the kitchen. Julius mentioned that usually the organic waste, let's say the plantain peels and the rest, usually they take longer time to digest. But there's also the advantage of improving on the carbon nitrogen ratio, because for example, the plantain peel has a higher carbon content. The human excreta has a lower carbon content, but a higher nitrogen content. When you bring the two together, you get the ideal situation, and you get a richer digestion system, higher gas amount, and also a higher percentage of methane in the gas. So the idea is to combine. But what, as you just mentioned, what is not good is to add something like wood pieces. Those contain a lot of lignin. And for those situations, usually you need what we call pre-treatment, where you do some treatment first before you even allow it into the digester. But for kitchen waste, it is great. Organic kitchen waste is great for the digestion.
Thank you very much. For the sake of time, let me ask my last question. Later on, I'll contact you for more insights. The last question has to do with the issue of global warming. This particular biogas, does it actually contribute to global warming, or it's an advantage, or it minimizes the creation of global warming because of the other types of energy that we use?
Okay, thank you for the question. Let me try and answer, then maybe Julius might come in. Yeah, the biogas system is a technology that is supposed to actually help in arresting the release of greenhouse gases and also climate change, in the sense that when you have a well laid out digester, the methane and the CO2 are trapped in the digester. And so ideally, the gas should be used in a gas engine or in a stove. And when you use it in a stove, what you do is that you burn the methane, which has a very high global warming potential. You burn it into carbon dioxide. Use the gas, then the gas, looking at the high global warming potential of methane, then it's going to contribute to climate change. So even if you use a biogas digester and you don't use the gas, they want to see this of biogas technology, you make use of the gas in such a situation, then we contribute to climate change mitigation.
Thank you very much for the insights. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you for the questions and then the good response. Mr. Kamil.
Yes. Good afternoon, Doc.
But by the way, Mr. Kamil is a journalist of TV Africa, so he wants to capture us. Okay, Mr. Kamil.
Okay, so thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Like Prof indicated, my name is Kamel Baba with TV Africa. I'm so happy to be part of this particular meeting. Please, I want to find out. I don't know. Is there a way that we can tap solar to generate power? Because I've realized that in this part of our country, we have, so much, sun radiation. like if I say in this part, in the northern region, but it's wasted. So I don't know if you can recommend this to the energy ministry so that they will add that to some of their policies that they probably want to enroll. And then back to biogas, we are told that the Flagstaff house is powered by biogas. So how can we, I mean, the urban and the peri-urban areas, how can we also enroll it gradually so that to reduce the pressure that we put on our electricity?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, Engineer Benson, or
Yes.
who will take it?
Okay, yeah, Engineer Muraka, let me take it, and then I believe Julius might add some additional information.
Okay.
On the issue of solar, in fact, solar energy has been on the agenda of government. That is the Ministry of Energy, the Energy Commission, and other organizations, for many years. In fact, when you look at the renewable energy space in the country, considering solar energy, bioenergy, wind energy, and the rest, solar actually has received the greatest attention and support from government and also development partners. And at the national level, there are so many programs that have been designed with the support of development partners to promote solar energy, even to the extent that those that import solar energy components, even have subsidies. So for solar, there is a lot of support. And so I won't probably say that the level of national support to solar is low. No, it's actually high comparatively. Now, on the question that he asked about, please, can you repeat the one on the biogas?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was asking, is there a way that, we are told that the Flagstaff house is powered by biogas.
Yes, that's true.
So can we gradually enroll it in the urban and the peri-urban areas to reduce the pressure on the hydropower electricity generation?
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, the potential of biogas digesters is huge. It's great. As Julius pointed out in the presentation, technically, we can have more than 64,000 systems. That is only for cow dung, only for cow dung systems. Then when you talk about households, we can have more than 150,000. If we consider, and it's actually growing because if you consider the population of the country and the household size, the country is growing. So the potential is also increasing. Now, the Flagstaff house system was built, I think around 2006 or so, by one of the main biogas companies in the country. And the idea was that once the seat of government itself goes into the technology, then it can influence the people in the country to go into it. Yes, a lot of dissemination programs have been put across over the years. A lot of people are aware of it, the benefits, but there are challenges. As was pointed out, it is expensive to build a biogas digester. For example, even if you take a 5 cubic digester, it's going to cost around 10,000 cedis or more. So it's expensive. And in the country, a lot of people are even struggling to put up their houses. So, they of course, they are going to prioritize, the main structure of the house. And when it comes to waste treatment, it's not something that they are going to put priority. So the issue has to do with a lot of awareness creation. And for individuals that have the financial muscle to go into biogas technology, with awareness creation, a lot of them understand, and because they look at the long term. And of course, if I have this system, then I don't need to worry about emptying of septic tank and that. I can still use the digested wastewater and use it to irrigate my lawns or my farm. So a lot of people are using, but the main stumbling block has been the cost of the technology. And that actually cuts so many people or so many households off, because they simply can't raise the money to be able to fund it. And unfortunately, we also don't have flexible financial packages, let's say through the banks, that will enable the people who are interested in the technology to have it. So it comes back to who can pay. And it's only those who are able to afford it. Yeah, but from my own experience with the biogas companies, a lot of them are doing very well. Because we still have many people, the middle income people, who are able to afford the technology. And of course, the institutions too. So the industry is bright, and the potential to upskill is good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the response. Engineer Julius, do you want to add something?
Yes, I think my colleague had, said it all. I just want to say that in the chat box, I've attached a link to one of our books on biogas, and so you can access it for free. So those of you who are interested in learning more about the system and how to even construct very simple ones for your homes, you can go to the chat box to see the link and then access the book. All right. So of course, as Adam indicated, for the potential there is, I think the major issue had to be with the cost. And I also think that the lack of awareness is also another issue. Of course, awareness comes in several ways. People will know that there's something we call biogas, but because it is biogas, many people think that it should always only generate gas for them. But you see, even if you are not interested in using the gas, it is a good alternative to our septic system. It is just that in our part of the country or the world, the enforcers of the laws, in most cases, either they are not seen to be doing their work, or they are not probably able to visit a lot of places. Otherwise, I always keep saying that if we should insist on ensuring that we enforce the laws, our sanitation laws, in fact, many of us will not have any excuse. I have seen situations where people basically are dumping, untreated wastewater. In fact, sometimes when it rains, you see homes who even have septic tanks that are full because they have to dislodge it, finding ways of, connecting them to the drains and all of that. If EPA were going around taking samples and ensuring that these things are not happening, we may not have excuses of saying that the biogas systems are expensive, because they will save us a lot of money. They will save us a lot of cost and a lot of trouble from the sanitation authorities. So for me, I think that it's something those of us who are building new houses may want to consider. Very small system, not very large systems. Many homes now are not even, in fact, how many hours do we even spend in our homes now? You leave in the morning, come back in the evening. So these are systems that I think we can use, at least for nothing at all, for wastewater treatment. And I think that we should be able to have some of these systems in our homes.
Thank you, Engineer, for the response. I must add that this session has been recorded. The center has a YouTube channel, so it will be uploaded there for those who want to download it or watch it later. And then I'll talk to Doc 2 for the slides. Those who registered for the webinar, the slides will be shared with you for if you want to refer to it later. Thank you. I think we'll take Mr. Rashad and then Mr. Isaac, then we can end the session. So Mr. Rashad, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, you are on. You are on.
Thank you very much for please the temperature in the digester to know whether it is hemophilic or mesophilic.
Please.
Hello.
Hello, please ask your question again. Hello, please ask your question again.
Please, can you come
Yes,
again
I
on
said,
your question?
Doctor, okay, I said you made mention about the temperature ranges for thermophilic and mesophilic. And I want to know, how do you determine the temperature in a digester to know whether it falls within the thermophilic or mesophilic?
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. So let me say that for part of our, or do I say in Ghana specifically, our temperature ranges are suitable for the mesophilic population. So in most cases, you may not even need to determine the temperature. But of course, on a very general note, any chemical process, we have a way of determining temperature. Okay, so we have temperature sensors. Very low temperature sensors can be installed, and you can read the values outside the reactor or the digester. Okay, so if you want to, and I think this is something that the installers should even be able to do. You can have very simple, temperature measuring gadgets that can measure or detect the temperature of your system underground or wherever it is. If it's even installed on a surface, you don't have to even use a thermometer or whatever. You just install it, and then it will be indicating the temperature for you at some point in time if you really want to optimize your process. So this is something that is possible.
Yeah, hello. Okay, Mr. Rashad, I also want to add that now, if you look at the typical digesters that are built in Ghana, we have the fixed dome. The fixed dome is usually below ground. And so usually we will not have access to the contents, except in some situations where, for example, especially those ones that are built to handle, for example, cow dung. In such a situation, then you have a mixing chamber, and then you have an inlet that goes directly into the digester. In that case, you can even use a stick, pass it through the inlet into the digester, even to poke it to stir the digester. And so, for example, you have a temperature or a sensor, temperature measuring unit. You can attach it to the stick and then put it inside the digester to record it. But the point is, definitely you are going to get the mesophilic, okay, which will be in that range, which Julius showed, above 20 and around 30. So you are assured of the mesophilic digestion. Then another point that we need to consider is the other system, the floating drum. In the floating drum, you only have a metal drum that is placed on top of the digester. That one is very easy because you can easily remove the drum and then have access to the content, the slurry inside the digester. But for the fixed dome, it's covered and it is usually below the ground. And you may only have access through the inlet pipe, or sometimes through the exit pipe, depending on the specific design of the fixed dome. But you are sure that you enjoy mesophilic digestion, which will give you a very good gas output. Thank you.
Thank you, engineer, for the response. We'll take the last question and then we'll end the session. Is Mr. Isaac's hand still up? Okay, it looks like he's off. Okay, yes. Okay, this one, I think it's if X is not a name. So please, you can mute your mic and ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yeah, hello, you are audible, you can ask.
I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, my suggestion is more or less like a compliment, not a question. What happened is that I think it's good that this center is organizing this discussion for us to be able to, familiarize ourselves with what it goes into the biogas technology. And I think that going forward is good. This thing is tabled in front of those people who are in charge of policy in terms of energy, and because it's a very good discussion, I really enjoy the discussion. I have I'm also a student of biogas or biogas technology, and I'm learning a lot from this. And I think that it's good we actually come up with the implementation. I have done some work at the abattoirs and some other solid waste as well as liquid waste components. And I think it is very good if it is really implemented. A lot of people will enjoy it, and then we can reduce the cost in terms of electricity. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, I think Mr. Isaac is back. So Mr. Isaac, please ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Bubarak. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Isaac Ment, and I work with the Center for Energy, Environment, and Sustainable Development. I would like to thank Dr. for the presentation. It was a good, I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Doctor. Even though Doctor has touched on it, but I would like to deeper insights. Septic tank can easily be converted by the design of a septic tank. It's not that different from the fixed dome. So I want to know if I want to cut costs, can a septic tank be easily converted to a digester? And if that can, looking at the advantages that the biogas plant has over the septic tank, it is just today that I learned from the presentation that now about 60% of the biogas plants are working per design, but initially it wasn't so. So I would want to know what would encourage me as a landlord to convert my septic tank or to completely change it from a septic tank to a biodigester. So that is my question. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. I'm done.
Okay, thank you for the question. Please, Engineer Julius or Engineer Benz, who would like to take it?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. On the issue of converting the septic tank to a digester, it can be done. Technically, it can be done. Only that you might not be able to achieve, the suitable, condition for the anaerobic digestion, the capture of the biogas, that's the methane, because the biogas digester is built, in such a way that, one, you need to make sure that the slurry does not leak, and two, you need to make sure that the gas also does not leak. And so the way that it is built is quite different from a typical septic tank. And so when you try to convert the septic tank, all that you have to do is to find a way to patch the digester such that both the gas and the liquid will not leak. But it's not that easy. When you look at how we build a fixed dome, you see that it is a dome. It is spherical, very robust. And the way that it is, even the way that the mortar is prepared, the plastering are quite, let's say, are supposed to be done, in a certain way. Because if you make any mistake, crack will develop because of the pressure in the digester. Yeah, in the past, we've seen a lot of people trying to convert the septic tank to, but it hasn't been easy. One, no matter how you do it, you will not be able to get the robustness of the system. And that means that eventually you will have the gas leaking. So it can be done. I mean, the digestion you can achieve some level of digestion, but you lose the gas, or at least you lose a major fraction of the gas. And that means that the objective of preventing the escape of methane, which causes climate change, will not be realized. To overcome this situation, there is a new digester that looks like a septic tank called the anaerobic baffle reactor. That is also built by some of the companies. That design, compared to the fixed dome, is cheaper and easier to build. But even with that design, you are not guaranteed, maximum, gas, maximum gas stay inside the digester. That means that there is still a lot of leakage. From the work that we did in 2018, a lot of the ABR, the anaerobic baffle reactor, had the gases leaking. And of course, the digestion is not as optimal as you have it in the fixed dome. Yes, so I think that you can convert it, but you will not get 100% of the digestion compared to the fixed dome. And also, you have a lot of your gas escaping into the atmosphere. But of course, when you, at least the only motivating part is that you will not be emptying your digester, because once there is anaerobic digestion, then the effluent will either be used or it will be allowed to exit into the public drain, so that you won't do the emptying and you won't spend money in emptying the contents. So that is a motivating factor. Other than that, when it comes to the gas utilization, is going to be reduced significantly. Okay.
Thank you for the response. Engineer Beth, can you add your closing remarks so that Engineer Julius can add, and then we can end the session?
Okay, Engineer Mubarak, I want to first of all thank you, your office and the center, the Energy Technology Center of the School of Engineering of UDS, for putting up this program. Biogas is something that I have been involved for so many years, even starting from my undergraduate years in 2003 and 4, and also my master's and my PhD. And I've also been involved with the activities of the Biogas Association of Ghana. So I've been in the sector for long. The potential is great. and Ghana stands to make a lot of gains, especially in this situation where we have fuel increases and with a lot of uncertainties. If you are, for example, a cattle farmer or even at your household, you are using your nice soil and your kitchen waste to produce biogas, then it will be a big incentive. It's going to take the headache of buying firewood, charcoal, LPG, kerosene, which we all use for energy purposes. So biogas is sustainable, and it is a great program that we have organized, and I think we have shared a lot of ideas. Moving forward, we need to think about how best we can push the industry, and what we can also do in terms of awareness creation, how we can liaise with government, and also get government to introduce more financial packages to support the companies in the sector, how they can move into the various regions, the communities, the household, the cattle rearing areas, the poultry sector, the piggeries, and all the sectors. So it is an industry that is exciting, and I'm very happy to be part of this program. And I thank all the participants from UDS, from Kumasi Technical University, the Biogas Association of Ghana, and all those who made time to be part of this program. Of course, my colleague Julius, thank you for putting up the presentation. And to you, Mr. Mubarak, thank you for the coordination and everything. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the compliments. So, Engineer Julius, your closing remarks.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for making time to listen to us. I've already indicated we are available for further discussions for the students. If you have any questions, technical questions, theoretical questions, practical questions, we are available. Please feel free to contact us. Those of you in the industry doing the biogas business, please, if you have any challenges, you can feel free to contact us. We are open to collaborate on promoting, the sector and making sure that we have a very vibrant and a successful and sustainable biogas industry, as has been done in other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then I must add that this webinar is should I say, an appetizer for we are planning to have biogas training internally for people who are interested in to venture into that profession. So the idea is, if we start sensitizing people, when the time comes for people to attend the training, they'll appreciate the needs for it. And then for those who were able to register, we'll share the slides with you, and then the link to our YouTube channel where this presentation will be uploaded. And then we have a Facebook, the presentation was streamed live on Facebook too. We have a Facebook page that it was streamed. So it's for, if you enjoyed and you want to participate in our future webinars, you can like our Facebook page and then like our YouTube channel. So when we put up new flyers, you'll be aware, and then you can participate and benefit from it.
All right, so Mubarak. Hello, engineer. Hello, engineer.
Yeah,
Engineer
hello.
Mubarak. Engineer Mubarak.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just a quick one. I think there are a few people that I want to acknowledge who are here. I've just noticed that my Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Mike Agbesi, it's here with us. It's a pleasure to have him here. In fact, we also have the National PITAG Chairman, Dr. Collins Ameyo, also here listening to us. He's is he a land economist or construction economist? So I'm sure he's also very interested in the discussion. So, and there are a couple of colleagues from South Africa also here. And so thank you guys all for joining. And we hope to have very interesting sections moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to also add to the people that is worth acknowledging, we have in our midst our client with the World Bank, Mr. Matthew Owen that we are working with. We are still working on a project with Onchaku Supply. He's currently in the UK. He also joined us for the session. And to all my colleagues and students, we appreciate the time that you've made for this program, and we hope to see you in future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you can.
Yes.
It's over. You can.